The neon lights of Las Vegas Boulevard flickered like a fever dream outside the casino where Theresa Sullivan had spent the last 25 years of her life. At 60, she was a fixture at the Mirage, dealing blackjack with a steady hand and a smile that masked the exhaustion of a life spent giving too much. Her auburn hair, streaked with silver, was pulled into a neat bun, and her uniform, black vest, white shirt, and a name tag that read Theresa, Las Vegas, was as familiar to her as her own skin. She was good at her job, reading players like open books, knowing when to push a conversation or let a gambler stew in silence. But tonight, as the slot machines chimed and the air smelled of cigarette smoke and ambition, Theresa felt a weight heavier than the chips she stacked. Her family was in town. Her younger sister, Monica, her niece, Brittany, and a gaggle of cousins and in-laws had descended on Vegas for Brittany's bachelorette party. They'd been planning it for months, flooding the family group chat with ideas for shows, clubs, and dinners, all while subtly nudging Theresa to hook them up with comps or cash. She'd done it before. Paid for plane tickets, covered hotel rooms, slipped hundreds into Monica's purse when her sister's business ventures inevitably failed. Theresa was the reliable one, the one who never said no, the one who worked double shifts to keep her family afloat. But this time, something felt different. The weight of their expectations was suffocating, like a slot machine that never paid out.
The bachelorette dinner was at Carbone, a high-end Italian steakhouse in the Aria. All red velvet and dim lighting. The kind of place where the menu didn't list prices because if you had to ask, you couldn't afford it. Theresa had hesitated when Brittany picked it, knowing the bill would be astronomical. But Monica had waved off her concerns. "You're in Vegas, sis. Live a little. Besides, you've got that casino money." Theresa had smiled tightly, swallowing the urge to point out that casino money was just her paycheck, earned through aching feet and sleepless nights. She arrived at Carbone at 8 p.m., her black dress simple but elegant, a thrift store find she'd paired with a silver necklace she'd bought herself years ago. The private dining room was already buzzing when she walked in. Brittany, 25 and radiant in a sequin pink dress, was at the center, laughing with her bridesmaids. Monica, 52, was holding court with a martini, her blonde hair teased high, her designer purse screaming money Theresa had likely lent her. Cousins, in-laws, and Brittany's friends filled the long table, 15 people in all, more than Theresa had expected. She felt a knot in her stomach as she sat down, the chandelier above casting a glow that felt more like a spotlight. "Theresa, you made it," Brittany called, raising a glass of champagne. "Guys, this is my aunt, the Vegas Queen. She's gonna show us how to do this city right." The table cheered and Theresa forced a smile, her hands folding tightly in her lap. The menu was a leather-bound tome, each dish more extravagant than the last. Wagyu ribeye, lobster ravioli, truffle risotto. The wine list started at $200 a bottle. Theresa's heart sank as she calculated her monthly budget, already stretched thin from Monica's latest emergency loan.
The evening spiraled quickly. Monica ordered a $400 bottle of Barolo, winking at Theresa as if they were in on some grand joke. Brittany's friends, emboldened by the open bar vibe, called for appetizers, entrees, and desserts with names Theresa couldn't pronounce. Her cousin Reggie, a loudmouth from San Diego, ordered a $300 steak just to try it. The table was a circus of laughter, selfies, and clinking glasses, but Theresa felt like she was watching it all from underwater. No one asked her how she was. No one thanked her for the plane ticket she paid for, or the hotel discount she'd pulled strings to get. She was invisible, a prop in their party.
Then it happened. Brittany stood, tapping her glass with a fork, her engagement ring glinting under the lights. "I want to make a toast," she announced, her voice slurring slightly from the champagne. "To my Aunt Theresa, the family bank. Without her casino cash, we wouldn't be living it up tonight. So order whatever you want. She's got it covered." The room erupted in laughter and applause. Monica clapped loudest, her eyes gleaming with something cruel. Reggie raised his glass, shouting, "To Theresa's deep pockets." Even the waiters smirked as they refilled glasses. Theresa froze, her face burning. The words hit like a slap, each laugh a needle in her skin. She looked around the table. 15 pairs of eyes, none meeting hers, all assuming she'd foot the bill, as always. Brittany sat down, giggling, oblivious to the humiliation she'd just inflicted. Monica leaned over, patting Theresa's arm. "Oh, come on, sis. It's just a joke. Don't be so sensitive. You know we love you." The room spun. Theresa's hands trembled as she gripped her water glass. She'd spent decades being the family's safety net, working nights at the casino while her siblings partied, sending money to Brittany's college fund, bailing Monica out of debt again and again. And this was her reward? A public mockery? A room full of people treating her like an ATM? The waiter approached with another bottle of wine, and Theresa saw the future in stark clarity. A bill she couldn't pay, a family that wouldn't care, and a life drained dry. She took a deep breath, her heart pounding, but her mind strangely calm. "I need to use the restroom," she said softly, standing with her purse clutched to her chest. Monica barely glanced up, waving her off. "Hurry back, sis. We're ordering dessert." Theresa walked through the dining room, past tables of strangers laughing over their own meals, past the hostess who smiled politely. Her black dress swished against her legs, each step steadier than the last. She pushed open the glass door to the Aria's lobby, the cool night air hitting her face like a baptism. Outside, the strip glowed, Bellagio fountains dancing, tourists snapping photos, the city alive with possibility and chaos. Theresa didn't look back. She walked to the taxi stand, her heels clicking on the pavement. "Where to, ma'am?" the driver asked, an older man with kind eyes. "The Greyhound station," she said, her voice steady. She slid into the cab, the neon lights blurring as they pulled away. Her phone buzzed. Brittany, probably wondering where she was. Theresa turned it off. The silence as liberating as the desert air. The Greyhound station was a stark contrast to the strip's glitz, flickering fluorescent lights, worn benches, and the smell of stale coffee. Theresa bought a ticket to Reno, a city she'd visited once years ago for a casino conference. It was quieter than Vegas, less demanding, a place where she might breathe. The ticket cost $38, a fraction of the dinner bill she'd just escaped. She boarded the bus, taking a window seat, and leaned her head against the cool glass. As the bus rolled out of Vegas, the city's lights faded, replaced by the vast, dark Nevada desert. For the first time in years, Theresa felt weightless. The ride to Reno was 4 hours, enough time for her mind to replay the dinner, the laughter, Brittany's cruel toast. She thought of her life, 25 years at the Mirage, living in a modest one-bedroom apartment off Tropicana Avenue, her savings depleted by family loans that were never repaid. She dreamed of retiring to a small house with a garden, maybe writing the story she'd always kept locked in her head. But those dreams were always deferred for someone else's needs. Monica's boutique that went bankrupt, Brittany's study abroad trip, Reggie's investment opportunities. Theresa had been their ATM, and she'd let it happen, believing that's what family did. In Reno, the bus pulled into the station just after 2 a.m. The city was quieter than Vegas, its casinos smaller, its streets less frenetic. Theresa checked into a cheap motel near the Truckee River, the kind of place where the neon sign buzzed and the bed creaked. She slept fitfully, waking to a text from her old friend Carla, a Reno local who'd once worked with her at the Mirage. "Theresa, you okay? Monica called me freaking out, said you bailed on some dinner. Call me."
Theresa met Carla for coffee at a diner called Peg's Glorified Ham and Eggs, a cozy spot with red vinyl booths and the smell of bacon. Carla, 58, with short gray hair and a no-nonsense vibe, listened as Theresa poured out the story, the dinner, the toast, the $5,000 bill she'd sensed coming, the escape. "Good for you," Carla said, stirring her coffee. "Your family's been bleeding you dry for years. You don't owe them a dime." Carla offered her guest room, no strings attached. "Stay as long as you need. Figure out what you want for once." Theresa took her up on it. Carla's house was a small craftsman near the river, with a porch swing and bookshelves stuffed with paperbacks. For the first time in decades, Theresa felt safe, unburdened by demands. She spent her days walking along the Truckee, its water sparkling under the Nevada sun, and her evenings talking with Carla about their casino days, their dreams, their regrets. Carla suggested a local writing group that met at a bookstore called Sundance Books. "You always said you wanted to write," Carla said. "Now's your chance." The writing group was a mix of misfits, retirees, college kids, a former truck driver named Ray who wrote poetry about highways. Theresa was nervous at first, her hands shaking as she read her first piece, a short story about a woman who dealt cards in a casino but dreamed of stars. The group clapped, Ray calling it damn real. For the first time, Theresa felt seen, not for her wallet, but for her words. She started writing every day, filling notebooks with stories of her life, growing up in a cramped apartment in San Diego, her marriage that ended when her husband left for greener pastures, the years of sacrifice for a family that never said thank you.
Back in Vegas, the fallout was seismic. Monica had texted 37 times, her messages escalating from confusion to fury. "Where are you? The bill's $5,200. You can't just leave us like this." Brittany sent voicemails, first whining, then accusing. "Aunt Theresa, how could you do this to me? This was my special night." Reggie called once, demanding she fix this mess. Theresa didn't respond. She blocked their numbers, one by one, a digital guillotine dropping on her old life. Carla got a call from Monica, who claimed Theresa had abandoned the family. Carla shut her down. "Maybe you should have thought about that before you laughed at her expense." The restaurant had been a nightmare for them. Monica, Brittany, and Reggie scraped together credit cards to cover the bill, maxing out limits and racking up debt. The story spread like wildfire. Brittany's friends posted about it on Instagram, calling it the dinner disaster. A local Vegas gossip blog picked it up, dubbing it the Bachelorette Bill Blowout. Monica's boutique lost customers when the story linked her to the scandal. Brittany's fiancé, a tech bro from Palo Alto, started questioning her judgment. The family turned on each other, blaming Monica for organizing the dinner, Brittany for her cruel toast, Reggie for ordering the most expensive items. Without Theresa's money to smooth things over, their unity crumbled. In Reno, Theresa found a job at Sundance Books, shelving novels and ringing up customers. It paid less than the casino, but the hours were kinder, and the quiet suited her. She loved recommending books, especially to young women who reminded her of herself, searching, unsure, but hungry for something more. She kept writing,
her stories growing bolder, more honest. She wrote about the casino, the way the lights hid the desperation in players' eyes. She wrote about her family, not with anger, but with clarity, dissecting the dynamics that had trapped her for so long. One evening, at the writing group's open mic night, Theresa read a piece called The Last Hand. It was about a blackjack dealer who walks away from a rigged game, leaving the table in chaos. The room was silent as she read, her voice steady but thick with emotion. When she finished, the applause was deafening. Ray, the truck driver poet, hugged her, saying, "You're a damn warrior." A woman named Ellen, a librarian in her 50s with kind eyes and a soft smile, approached her after. "Your words hit me hard," Ellen said. "I've been that dealer too." They started talking, first about writing, then about life. Ellen had lost her wife to cancer 3 years ago and was rebuilding her own life, one book at a time. Theresa and Ellen became friends, meeting for coffee at Peg's, walking the riverfront, sharing stories of loss and resilience. Ellen encouraged Theresa to turn her stories into a memoir. "You've got a voice people need to hear," she said. Theresa hesitated. She wasn't sure her life was worth a book, but Ellen's belief in her was a quiet anchor. Their friendship deepened, slow and steady, rooted in mutual respect. One night, over wine at Ellen's cozy apartment, Theresa realized she was falling in love. It wasn't the reckless passion of youth, but something deeper, a choice, a partnership. Ellen felt it too, and they kissed under the glow of a single lamp, the Truckee River murmuring outside. 6 months after the Vegas Walkout, Theresa rented a small studio apartment in Reno's Midtown, a vibrant area with murals and coffee shops. She decorated it with thrift store finds, a blue armchair, a shelf for her notebooks, a potted cactus she named Survivor. Her memoir, Dealing Myself Out, took shape, each chapter a step toward understanding her past. She wrote about her mother, who taught her to always keep the family together, even at her own expense. She wrote about Monica, whose charm masked a bottomless need. She wrote about Brittany, who'd learned entitlement from watching her mother. And she wrote about herself, a woman who'd given until she was hollow, only to discover she could rebuild.
News from Vegas trickled in through Carla, who heard it from mutual friends. Monica's boutique closed, drowned in debt. Brittany's wedding was downsized to a courthouse ceremony after her fiancé's parents refused to fund it. Reggie moved back to San Diego, dodging calls from creditors. The family group chat went silent, fractured by blame and shame. Theresa felt a pang of guilt. She was still a sister, an aunt. But Ellen reminded her, "You didn't break them. They broke themselves." One day, a letter arrived at Sundance Books, forwarded from Carla's address. It was from Brittany, handwritten, the ink smudged in places. "Aunt Theresa, I'm so sorry. I was awful that night. I thought it was funny, calling you the family bank, but I see now how cruel it was. I've lost my job, my fiancé's trust, everything. I'm working at a coffee shop now, trying to pay off the debt from that dinner. I don't expect you to forgive me, but I need you to know I'm trying to be better." Theresa read it 3 times, her heart heavy but not broken. She didn't reply, not yet, but she kept the letter, a small sign that change was possible. A year after the walkout, Theresa's memoir was published by a small Reno press. It wasn't a bestseller, but it found an audience. Women like her, trapped by family, who saw themselves in her story. She did a reading at Sundance Books, the room packed with her writing group, Carla, Ellen, and strangers who clapped like she was family. Ellen held her hand afterward, whispering, "You did it." Theresa felt a pride she'd never known, not from dealing cards or paying bills, but from creating something wholly hers. She bought a small house near the Truckee with a patio where she planted wildflowers. She and Ellen spent evenings there, reading to each other, their laughter mingling with the river's song. Monica called once, leaving a voicemail. "I'm sorry, Theresa. I messed up. Can we talk?" Theresa didn't call back, but she didn't block the number either. Forgiveness was possible, but it would be on her terms, in her time. On the anniversary of the walkout, Theresa stood on her patio, a glass of wine in hand, the wildflowers blooming in the desert sun. She'd left Vegas with nothing but her purse and her pain, but she'd built a life in Reno. Friends, love, a voice. The ATM was gone. In its place was Theresa Sullivan, a woman who'd learned that saying no was an act of love, that walking away was sometimes the only way to stay.
Did you like my story? And which city are you listening from? Let's meet in the comments. If you like the story, you can support me by sending a super thanks so I can keep bringing more stories like this. Thank you so much for your sweet support. I'm looking forward to your comments on the story. There's so much more on my channel. Don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next life story with love and respect.